Good evening, welcome to this State Committee meeting. First thing I think we should do is say thank you to Lisa and Emma and all of the wonderful team that helped create the recent food festival. I don't think we've done that, so on behalf of us, thank you very much for doing that, organising it, and made it a success again. Right, so we'll get on with the meeting. We've got representations from interested parties. So, shall we think, does it matter which order? I guess not.
No.
No. So, if we can hear from the Fitch Collins first. They're flooding.
Yes, we live directly opposite the Drill Hall car park in Benfield Road. That run of houses, including ours, sits below the street level. There is a gully in the set of pavement. There are two nearby drain points in the highway itself, and there is one drainage point in the entrance to the car park. Car park is a very large tarmacked area. During any storm burst, if I can put it in those terms, the water obviously will flow from the whole of that area through the entranceway and onto the highway. It does that because the drain in the car park, first of all, sits proud, so the water goes around it,
Right.
And secondly, because it is inadequate. That water then goes onto the highway. I accept entirely that once the water's on the highway, it becomes the problem of Northamptonshire Council as the Highways Authority, but from a legal perspective, it's the town council's obligation to prevent the water going to the highway in the first place. You have a duty under the Tortious Principles in Hines and Fletcher, but I'm sure you can take your own legal advice on that. The problem could be quite relatively easily solved by constructing a decent sized French drain across the entire entrance of the car park. That would ferry the water away. At the moment, as I say, the way that drain is inadequate, it still has standing water in it. My wife took a picture of it yesterday and forwarded it. And even there are a couple of tennis balls in there as well, goodness knows how they got in there. Because the railings that sit opposite us, there's a small wall. And so you see, once the water sits on the highway, cars travelling that way vastly in excess of 30 miles an hour, but leaving that aside. Obviously, it creates a wake, and the water then comes over the wall. So an additional obvious solution would be to panel in those railings up to the first part, ideally with something like Perspex, because then it wouldn't have any light reduction issues or indeed be unsightly. In fact, we've investigated the cost, and each panel between the upright stanchions would cost about £45 to have custom made and drilled out. So it's not an excessively expensive issue. But twice in the last 8 days, contaminated tap seawater has come into our home. We've had to spend hundreds of pounds in the last week on dehumidifiers, air movers. This happened 3 years ago, almost in August of 2020, when over £20,000 worth of damage was caused to our home by the stormwaters then. Because of that, obviously my wife is now very attuned to this issue. We have sandbags, and whenever there's a threat of a storm, we deploy them. I've also now just ordered a specialist door guard to fit when we're not at home, but we shouldn't have to do this. The problem is being caused by the inadequate drainage on the Drill car park. Clearly.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Just one question. We've got a photo here, which I think is yours. I've had a look at, I've seen the tennis balls, etc.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a U-bend in those pipes which might keep some water in. But
Sometimes.
There
I'm
are
not suggesting it's blocked.
But my interesting question is, our drain's there, and then the road drain is here.
Yeah.
And then this water that comes off these downpipes, is there a drain
Yes.
as well?
Yeah, the downpipe. Pardon?
Where does that go?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's even lower, which.
Yes. So immediately along the edge of that wall, there is a gully.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't run the whole length of the road,
I'm
And-
liking that.
And to be fair, it has been cleaned on a relatively regular basis previously. And
It was
we,
blocked 3 years ago.
and 3 years ago, it was just going to get grown, and we sweep it ourselves regularly, to keep it clear. But as I say, the other difficulty, of course, is that there's a profound slope to the left of us, and effectively our front door is the lowest point of the street.
So on Sunday, last Sunday, when we had I was inside with sandbags across the whole of the front of the house, and the water was that depth. I couldn't get out of the house. I couldn't do. There was nothing I could do.
Came over the sandbags.
Came over the sandbags and just started coming through the walls. It's horrific.
Not good, no, it's
Val,
Just to make sure I've understood, did you say there was damage 3 years ago?
Yes,
And what remedy was used then, and did it do the trick?
what, to deal with the storm
Yes.
waters? No, the North Northamptonshire, were pursued by Aaron Shores, I believe, obviously, as Highways Authority. And they came out and surveyed the drains, and they said that they'd clean them. And certainly in terms of what I would call ordinary rain, having the gullies cleaned has made a big difference. But as I say, the reality is that any heavy rain burst, and it's not as if these events are becoming more frequent. That's the reality of our climate situation. The water, you can just watch it come across from the river.
Yeah.
And you've got a large open tarmac area. What do you think of that?
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I understand if you haven't done this, but have you spoken to your neighbours at all? Are they
Yes.
similar?
Yes,
similar?
yeah, Greg Rice, who owns the 2 properties to our immediate right, if you're looking up Allendale, he's also had flooding.
Okay.
So it appears to be our 3, and he said,
You know how sandbags.
he now has sandbags as well.
Okay. Okay, well, I think we've all seen the video,
Yeah.
we've all seen pictures. So for now, we'll say thank you.
Thank you. As I said, the other issue is that, to be frank, the level of stress that it puts my family under, you having to think about every time there's a dark cloud, do we,
We both work full time. We
Yeah.
can't keep coming home to, every time we leave the house, we have to barricade it with towels at the front, go out the back.
it's very upsetting.
It's really
Yes.
upsetting. We don't want to keep spending money and it keep happening. It's horrible.
So anything you do that would be much appreciated.
no, thank you.
Yeah,
But
Thank you.
thank you for listening, it's much appreciated.
yeah, no, you're welcome to stay and listen to the rest of the meeting, but we'll discuss that later in the agenda.
Thank you, we'll get the thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so the next interesting item is, Ashley, sorry, I didn't get your surname. Webb, and he's talking around car parks. Yay. Everybody's favourite topic, I think. Are you going to do a talk or are we going to?
I'll just do
Yeah.
a little bit about
Yeah.
the new parking team that's been in place in Northamptonshire, just to give you an overview of how long we've been taking it over. So Northampton Council Park Enforcement and Processing Team went live on the 3rd of April this year. This is a result of the highway certification process with West Northants. The new team combines in-house enforcement and processing staff in one location within the council. The back office is currently outsourced with a view to bring it in-house and the contract expires. This provides the council greater control, deployment and ability to prioritise locations within the visit. So the enforcement team consists of 8 to 10 officers, staff operating across the council areas, prioritising key locations across including town centres, public car parks, including country parks, residential and permanent areas and school requests as well. The team is growing over the next coming months and will work with local communities to address local parking concerns. Enforcement is not everybody's cup of tea, especially parking. However, without some level of control, those hard to deal situations would not be dealt with at all. And it takes special people to solve these matters, and the team that we currently have are very good. Before I finish, I'd like to give you some figures under the last 3 months since we've gone live. Across Northamptonshire, we've issued 3,426 parking charge notices, penalty charge notices, sorry. Broken that down, it's 1,966 PCNs by the single bus lane camera that we have in Wellingborough, 1,459 on-street PCNs across Northern Hampshire, and it is only a small number, but 30 of those have been in Arundel, and most of those have been on West Street, only over in the 3 bays outside there. If you have any complaints regarding parking issues, I can give you your email address as well, so you can send them all across, so we can get them all looked into.
Thank you very much. Questions? Yeah, Dan?
Can I just check, you're from the company who oversee the car parks, are you? Or the traffic wardens or whatever you call it?
I'm the senior,
Who are you?
I'm the senior parking officer for North Northamptonshire
Thank
Council. Yes, so we look after all the council-run car parks, country parks. And I've already, obviously, being set the agenda for today, you know that the car park, especially on the Carp, is a big problem for you guys. I drove around it earlier on with a colleague, and I don't think I see a single space. And he worked for the previous contractor, NSL, who did our parking enforcement in everywhere else apart from Kettering where it was. And he said that he knows historically there's cars in there that don't move for weeks on end. So because of that, I spoke to my manager, who then reached out to Highways, and they said if you put together a proposal for us to take over the car parks, we'd need a traffic regulation order for us to do that. And then we could enforce your car parks, so however it be if you want, because currently it's meant to be 2 hours, isn't it, I believe? Yeah, so we'd have to get signage sorted out, obviously. But that's something that, if you put something together and email it across to the traffic enforcement email address, that we can, my manager and then Highways can look into.
Okay. Right. Any other further questions at the moment for Ashley?
I've got a couple of maybe specific questions about things we've talked about in the last few weeks or months. I thought I might just pick Ashley's brain if that's
Yeah.
Try your best.
Let's say, for example, it's a car park that we own, but we've leased.
Yeah.
And there's a disabled bay, and someone parks illegally in that bay. How and what can we do?
So one you own and you've leased out.
Yep.
So you could use a private company to enforce your piece of land, as long as obviously the signages are correct. And I think that's all they require, a private company, as long as you are the land owner. Whereas if it's the council take it on, there'd have to be a traffic regulation order in place for that piece of land and the disabled bay and all the relevant signage.
So that's the next question. What's the relevant signage? Because we're not big on signage at the moment.
Sorry, I missed that.
Sorry, we have a lot of signage.
What's the signage that would require?
So, I'm trying to think of every freestanding car parks in Kent. But normally, so it'd be a sign on the entrance, so saying what the name of the car park is, the regulations that are in place in the car park. So say if it was Co-op, it would be 2 hour free stay, no return within an hour, 2 hours, I don't know what it currently is. Anybody that stays longer than that will be liable to a penalty charge notice. Penalty charge notice has to be issued by a warden. The warden would have to go to the car park, log every single car in the car park, do a visit after an hour, come back an hour later. If all those vehicles stay in the same place, have not moved, a parking charge will be issued to the vehicles. I don't know how a private company would work it. I've never worked for private parking, I've always worked for the councils. And that's how all councils I've worked for have done overstays.
And just on the same basis, if we wanted to put signage up saying that, do we just do it, or do we need to do something?
You'd have to probably abide by the British Parking Association rules. I don't know what it would have to be. If you go for a private company, they'll probably tell you what to put on their sign. If you come to the council, Highways will say it has to be on the sign.
Okay.
And I already know there's a lot of signage in town, and there's lines that have been addressed to Highways that is on their list to do as well. I'm driving around again today, I see there's double lines that aren't complete on junctions of roads. There's along West Street, there's signs that are in the middle of the middle of a single line, and they should be middle of the bay. So they're all stuff that we're very aware of, and we have put forward to highways.
Okay.
So it's just unfortunately waiting on highways to get to it.
Next question, which you sort of touched on, if we wanted to change where double yellow lines were in town, is there a process for that? It's actually, that's highways.
Yeah, it would be highways, I believe, has to put a petition towards.
And the last one, I think, is if we wanted to have parking wardens every Thursday on market day, how do we go about booking those in your little?
Yeah, it's something that, if you pop it in a proposal, as well as if you do the car parks, it's something that management is happy to discuss with you guys. Getting somebody here on a certain day would probably be a price included, but it's something that the manager is definitely happy to look into towards. It's something that he wants to put towards other town councils as well, if they feel they want some people on certain days, that we're happy to deploy there, but we need something to be in writing.
Okay. I sort of have two questions. In your experience, you said about potentially giving the land, as it were, or giving the car parks over to NNC. How does that process work?
Honestly, I have no clue.
No?
Okay.
So it's not something you've done before?
No, not something I've done before. I've previously, I worked as a parking enforcement officer in Luton Council, and I moved into environmental enforcement for moving to North Northamptonshire as a generic warden, and then into the team leader role as of April. But I have no experience with anything that happens in the background. As far as all my manager said was if you put a proposal together and send it over, and they're looking for sort of highways already aware that they might need a traffic regulation order for the car park. It's something that
And
they're happy to work with.
that would just be to enforce the parking.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's another question, sorry. If we own the land,
Mhm.
we own the car park
Mhm.
and all of that, can we paint our own lines? Or do we need to have a formal line painting thing?
I don't think so. Because I honestly don't know the answer, 100%, but I don't think so. I don't think even a private company would be issuing on lines that have been sprayed down effectively. I think they would want something more concrete where they can, if it goes to adjudication, they know that their fine's going to be upheld and not be cancelled. Just the last thing you want is loads of cancelled PCNs and everyone knowing, oh, there's not a problem parking there, because it just get cancelled. Because people quickly learn that's a thing.
So who decides where the lines go?
Highways, highways, and then requests from members of the public or councils like yourselves. If you request an area to be lined or to be permitted, if we've looked into, there'll probably be public consultation.
But the car park you're in there, which is the doctor's,
Mhm.
that's private, and highways wouldn't do that, would they?
No, not public permission.
No. And that's saying another one there. Okay. Thanks. Cool, thank you very much.
Yeah, anybody else, any thoughts, questions? No, that's it for now. No?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ashley,
Okay.
for coming and talking to us. I know it's not necessarily that easy, so thank you, I appreciate that a lot. Okay, we'll move on.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stay around or head home.
yeah, exactly, yeah, that's up to you, it's
Well,
up
we
to
put
you.
you at the beginning, so you don't have to sit and listen to
Yeah,
the rest.
Yeah, I'll shoot up, because
Yeah.
I live in Northampton, so
Oh.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
good. We'll keep in touch.
yes, definitely, thanks for Gmail.
Thanks
Very
very
much.
much. Take care.
Okay. So the next item is actually apologies for absence. We've got one, which is, oh no, we've got two. Well, we've got apologies from Lita. That's,
No, I'm not quite sure what's happened,
I'm worried when you realise this is a start.
yeah, potentially.
but we thought that last time, didn't
Yeah, we
we? And she didn't arrive at 7:30, so I sent all the information out, obviously
Okay.
the same, but and I'm sure Emma spoke to her about last time, but
Okay,
I'll contact her anyway.
okay, and Rebecca is still doing maternity. Are we happy to accept those apologies?
Yes.
Declaration of interests. Anybody got anything they want to declare at this point? No?
I work for Angle School, just in case it comes up.
Okay, don't think so, right? Representation, we've done that. Minutes of previous meeting have been circulated. Are we happy to accept those? Yes, and I've a proposer of those. Thank you. Pass that in. All in favour? Excellent. Okay. Talk on these sounds. Okay. Reports. To receive our reports. To receive a monthly report, open spaces, property report, action plan, progress update, 3 to 5 year maintenance plan, so next steps. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, I printed one off, but I've managed to leave it on the printer. So, I've stuck it on the team for estates,
Okay.
but I'm not sure everyone's very excited about the teams, but it's there.
I couldn't open it. Both of the documents that were on there, it just said no longer available or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay. It should, if you're in the team,
Good.
it should open.
Well, all your comments and everything are on there, and my previous comments in the thread, but I just can't get on it. So I'll show you after the meeting and see if I'm doing something wrong.
Can I make it big enough on here? Not sure. Basically, all I've done is taken the thing that we worked on last year, and I've tried to add. I've gone back over a few of the most recent agendas, and added things like when we've had PAT testing done, when we've had gullies cleared, etc., and then put them next year and the year and the year and the year, just so there's a pattern that we'll know in these months these things are happening. And at the moment, I've put them under Fletton House, QDH, Courthouse, Rec, Earl Chishu, which I think is the East Road long-term car park, Benfield Road long-term car park, Co-op car park, toilets at the cemetery, other areas in East Road. And it's just a matter of if we think those are the right areas and if we think that's the right formula. So it's just a simple spreadsheet that sits there. In theory, we can all add to it, read it, and we see what's coming up, just to keep, so we're ticking those things off, partly for budgetary purposes and also just to make sure that we're on top of things. So it's really, if you think that system's okay, and if the format works, then obviously it doesn't at the moment, and we can work out why.
Can you send it out again?
Well, that's it. It's not sent out, it sits in here. That we
See,
can
I'm not in that, neither is David Chapel, so
you will be. If you can go to the council email, you can get onto
I
this.
can't, that's.
David Chappell is now on it.
Is
I
he
think
now
it's
on it?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's
So
just
it's
you've
only
got
me,
to
is
sort
it?
yours out,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
If I'll have a little fiddle.
Yeah, you see, that's what mine says when I click onto the file. Sorry, this file has been deleted or moved.
Okay, I'll come and have a look. But in theory, it should be open to all of us because we're all on there. If we're all logged in.
But if it's not working, it needs to work, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But then it's a matter of what's the best system. If we're all on the Microsoft system, that should work.
You see, the first one you sent, which was the draft OTC parking regulations, that's come up fine. That's still here and that's come up fine. But the other bits just aren't coming up.
Okay, so are you on the estates team then?
Mm,
Can you see the tab across the top that says 3 to 5 year maintenance?
yeah,
And nothing's coming up.
so I can see the tab on the top. It's disappeared now. Close that down. Because there's two ways of getting into it. There's the tab on the top, and then there's the body of your the conversation. You can click on either of those, can't you? But for some reason, it's just. So click on the tab at the top. Sorry, this file has been moved. Estates regions. Sorry, this file has been moved. That's on the tabs at the top, and if I do it on the bottom, it gives me the same message.
Okay.
So I'll have a word with Emma next time she's in the office, but I don't think I'm doing anything wrong.
Well, no, it must be something to do with the permissions.
Yeah,
Could be.
sorry, this file's been deleted or
Yeah.
removed. That's exactly what I've got.
Maybe.
I just thought,
Ian,
Yeah, no, I believe it. Just having a look. So the members of the team are Val, Jamie, Emma, Webb, Lisa, M365, whoever they are, Max, and I, and Lisa. So in theory, we've all got access to everything, but in practice, we don't.
no. So it might be an IT thing, it might be,
Have you
Blue
sent a
Moon.
link out to it?
I think so. Because you managed to get that council.
Yeah,
so
I
didn't
didn't
you?
back into that.
Anyhow, it's there, we'll try and find a way, but
Yeah.
it's a work in progress, it's live. So if there's anything we think we should keep adding to it, and all I was doing is populating year on year on year, which I'll keep doing until we get somewhere with it and get it working, and then we can change it. But I didn't want to go any further until everyone said that they thought that was okay. And we'll try and find a way. to
No, I
make
think
it work.
that's
Yeah.
really good. Really good. Thank you.
and like with the clock being serviced, each time something like that happens, anybody can then just go on it and put it
Yeah.
in a year's time or whatnot.
Exactly, so at least we, instead of that conversation, when was that, we should be able to
Yeah.
check.
You won't have to go through all the agendas and minutes to find out what it was. Yeah, it's good.
Without having seen it, it sounds like an excellent starting point, but again, I'm trying to envisage what this magical thing is that we've not seen. My understanding is effectively what it's done is cataloguing retrospective action. Is that right, Ian?
Well, so that's 2023. So for example, if the clock's just been serviced,
Okay.
it's into 2024, around the same month, clock and service.
Okay.
So, and we're just going all the way up for the next 5 to 10 years, give or take.
Okay. So, well, you've answered the question, and that is that how do we then project it forward as to copy these to be done? Okay.
There's probably a clever way, but I haven't found it.
Just answered my question. Thank you, Ian.
So, quick question, has the clock just been serviced?
Yes, I don't know why, but I've got it down for last Thursday, the 22nd, and then it popped up in my diary again today, but I believe it was done on the
Saw it in
22nd.
I saw it the other day and I was like this. So, yeah.
But I haven't been past to check that the time is
Yeah, yeah.
correct. It
Yeah,
is, is
it
it?
was.
Yeah.
Right,
They combined the two, thankfully, so we didn't get didn't have to pay a call-out charge to have
I know
it.
you've done this, but an easier way to do it is to create a specific calendar, and then you can schedule things automatically
Right.
so far in advance.
So, I love the way you volunteer things.
I'll try and have a look at it first and see whether if we convert it into a calendar,
Yeah, that's
the
great.
advantage of that is you can then give alerts, you see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. This is just where we started last year.
Yeah, this- yeah.
So,
It sounds like a very useful
Well,
tool, it's about maybe moving it to the next step.
the clever the better. And if Teams works, which is at the moment, then it becomes our friend.
Okay. That's good. Okay, thank you for that. Let's move on to next item is floods, water issues. So we've already had about situation with the Fish Islands. So it's for us to decide the next steps. I think I don't want to. Is it a case of we have to exactly if we are at fault, or?
Well, it seems to me that what we've got to investigate, based on what we've been told and what we've read via the email exchanges, is to clearly investigate what happens to the water
Yeah.
coming off of the Dual car park, and effectively see whether the drain that is on our land has the capacity that's required. And that will presumably involve in a drainage engineer of some sort.
Mm.
It struck me that it would be worth seeing if we could get the drain rodded or cleaned or whatever, at least just to see, as we deal with the toilet drain, get Dinah Roddy to come and have a look at it and see what's happening under the road, because there might be a problem there.
Yeah,
And also look at the same time about at least getting a quote for how
For a
much
French drain cost.
a suitable grid across the whole car. Because I'm not entirely sure all the water is not coming from other places, but clearly, as you say, it's a tarmac surface, it's going downhill. You know, and at the moment, all over town, there are proud grids that don't do the job they should do. So we should at least get a quote and find out. But if the gully, if the drain won't take that capacity of water,
Precisely.
it's just going to fall.
And that's why we need to get a drainage engineer in order to evaluate the issue. And just literally understand the way the water flows.
Yes.
We've been told that all the water flows out through that entrance. I thought that there may be a drain in the other corner. If not, I'm surprised that there's not a build-up of water along the wall. Because water can't run uphill.
I've not seen another drain anywhere along the wall, but I'll have a
there
look.
isn't.
Okay.
So are you happy then? So Dynarod, if you remember when we did the ones at the co-op, they did a CCTV exploratory survey,
Yeah.
basically, and they did find a part of the pipework that needed replacing, didn't they? That had
Yeah.
collapsed.
And of course, the problem is it'll probably be under the road.
Yeah.
You could be looking at a collapsed drain. I mean, you have
Potentially.
to clue what we're
But
looking at.
getting them in to give it a
Is there a
Yeah.
timescale on this?
So
Because
it sounds quite urgent.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Check the weather forecast.
Yeah, no, I'll get it. I mean, Dynarod are really good. If you call them, they come straight out. So if I tell them that's what we want,
Yeah. Is there a way that we can tonight, rather than waiting until the next state's meeting, is there a way that we can say we'll just get on and do that?
well, if it's classed as emergency works, which this is, we can. You're allowed to authorise up to £2,000, but if it's over that, if the quote comes in at over that, then I'll speak to Emma,
Well, it
and
seems
she's
to
got
be-
the ability to.
And they will give an initial inspection.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine it will be over the.
Not
time
initially,
they
no.
need, But then they may recommend further work.
Sure.
As you know,
Which-
Yeah.
come back to finance.
Yeah. But if we instigate an urgent
Okay.
survey and rodding at least.
Just on that point, thinking of the next couple of months, we don't have a meeting in August.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it might be worth, if they come out in the next few days and say ABC,
Yeah.
that goes to the full council in July.
Yes.
Yeah,
We
and
can
it's-
then approve,
yeah.
I think.
Okay. Can I have a proposal and a seconder for
How's
that? Yeah. Seconder, please.
Max.
Thanks.
Everyone
Everyone,
in
yeah.
favour? Good. Yeah, just trying to think if there's anything else with that. Well, do we know when was it last inspected professionally?
Oh, no, I don't, not in my time.
Do we keep that sort of record?
Yeah, we will should.
Or,
I mean, when it happened the last time,
Yeah.
our maintenance team cleared it out.
Right.
But we've not had a survey done, not since I've been here anyway, as far as I'm aware. Can you remember
I
of
don't
it?
know if it's been.
No, I think just our maintenance team have always just tried to keep on top of it.
I think when they come, it's important for us to understand, it's not just like a cleaning job, we've actually got to really understand where the
Where it
water
goes.
is actually physically going, because it may be that all it's doing is creating a problem downstream.
Stream,
basically. So we've got to try and understand the whole.
Well, looking at
engineering
the
behind it.
position of where the drain is, I would imagine there's not much of the drain under the surface that's on our property, because it's right near the entrance, isn't it?
And the other problem is if the drain near your front door down below is connected to the same system on the road, which is connected to our system.
Yeah,
If once
It's
that's
potentially
going
it's
to water,
pushing it.
it's just going to push it somewhere else.
further down, yeah.
Which is, and that's clearly, that's the case in 2 or 3 other areas. So
And that's kind of what I meant by
Mm.
understanding where it's actually going,
Going.
because we might clear it and actually accuracy might make it worse.
Yeah,
Right, you're right about getting a drainage engineer basically to look at it and say, yeah. this is-
Okay. So I think for now, that's,
I think that's as much as we
Yeah.
can do
Yes.
now. I mean, are you happy with
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
I'm not quite sure what more we can.
No, I think you've really got to grips, and I have to say I'm very thankful, grateful for the attention you give the issue, and it's great to see our town council working this way. Thank you. It's much appreciated.
yeah,
It's very,
it's being recorded.
it's very much appreciated, it really is.
No, thank you. Thank you for the video.
yeah.
It was quite funny that it was right on the door. It happened. There is another issue with the Dribble car park, which is that somebody is selling cars from it.
Ah,
Yeah,
still,
we-
yeah.
we are-
Different
we are,
person.
Is it different?
Oh, it's a different person,
Yeah.
oh, goodness me.
We did put a sign on a Persia that was there. and
No, I
that's
didn't have
been
a chance.
moved.
I didn't have
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
I went to
yeah,
deliver it and it was
right.
gone,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
and I kept going back to check whether it had come back, but
Well,
then I think
I had
we
a chat
emailed
with
said
the
it
chap
had gone,
who's, obviously, he's got a business doing up and selling Land Rovers. And there's often 2 or 3 Land
Is
Rovers.
that Land Rover in the corner?
So that's going to monitor the blue ones that you've got.
I hadn't realised that was for sale.
This is one of the problems we worked out at the last meeting, that without any
Monitor
monitors on the
yeah.
car park,
Yeah.
hence the question.
But the Mini obviously is still there, there's a big issue is that the Mini, which is neither taxed nor insured nor FAT, or even.
and
has full
that's the one
wheels.
that's been there for
That's been there for
more than a
years.
year, isn't
Been there for
it, yeah.
years. I think I suspect it's been abandoned.
Mm.
With the flat tyre.
I mean, we could put another notice on this new car. I mean, the Persia owner clearly took account.
Yes.
of that notice.
Yeah, and I think if I
But do-
email
do we
Arthur
need
again to see if he can contact the Mini owners, because obviously with that other lady that was parking her car, they did pay her a visit, didn't they? So he should be able to find
Yes.
out who that car's registered to, unless they're not local or something, I don't know, but, yeah, I'll chase it again with Arthur anyway.
And the final point is, I see you've got a later agenda item about saving electricity. If you put the incredibly bright lights, they are better now, they've been redirected. But if you put them on a timer, so they won't off at say 1 o'clock in the morning, you save an awful lot of electricity.
So we did discuss that before. I thought
Yeah,
that had been agreed, but on the time.
well, we agreed to speak to
Yeah,
Eon
Yeah.
about it, but we did, they've turned one of the lights off and repositioned them.
Yeah.
So when you didn't come back and say it was a nightmare still,
No,
we
yeah, they're a lot
left
better.
that for the time, but
Yeah.
yeah,
But
definitely.
this in terms
We're
of
trying
money.
to save your electricity bills so that you can read your
We
bill.
can,
Give me that sound.
You can see the water coming in.
It just means we can keep the flood. The lovely lighting on the flood walls at night is quite beautiful. Benfield Lake, as we now call it.
okay,
Yeah,
thank you
thank
very
you.
much, yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. Well, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I used to have to visit a gypsy encampment in my job, and it was when the M25 was being built. There was this gypsy encampment, so the enclosed itself completely in sleepers. But they had plugged themselves into the lighting for the M25. Weren't paying any electricity
Wow.
bills at all.
I mean, the rain's things. Right, okay, so we've basically solved that, well, for now. So that also goes on to the football club. Now, we don't have any pictures, do we, of this one?
I think, did I send you the video?
We've got the video, we've got their video, I've got their video.
No,
This one.
there was another one. Did anybody receive that?
I don't think so.
I've seen it in operation.
Yeah.
I've seen
I
it.
I honestly don't know, because this is on, obviously, it's school land, isn't it, that the football club, Grocers, and it's right next to the Waitrose corner, it's the back corner, and she
Okay.
did email me and say,
There's basically a pipe that
Mm.
runs down under Waitrose, and when there's a lot of water, it bubbles up intensely. Now, whether it's runoff, whether it's buildings, no one knows. And I know there's been, certainly last year, the football club were talking to the Water Environment Agency. There's all sorts of issues of riparian, who owns what, because there's a bit of a stream there. It's complex. It's complex, and I'm not sure.
I think what she was looking for is perhaps suggestions of names that she could talk to. But I mean, it's because it's on private land. There's nobody that we know that would be able to help her.
I'm happy to raise it at school if that helps. But
So just explain to me, how did the Grocers stroke school system works?
So William Laxton said there was a school in Angle up until 1556 where he was a pupil. He goes off, sells lots of spice, makes lots of money, becomes the Lord Mayor of London, and in his will, he gives some of that money to improve the grammar school in Angle,
Laxton.
and it becomes known as Laxton Grammar. And the Grocers are given the job of running it. And so they are the governing body. On speech day next week, on the 10th day, there'll be lots of people wearing lots of furry things.
Right.
Grocers Company.
Yes, delivery company, yeah.
And they will walk in and they'll do what they do, and they basically have there's a massive legal document down in the hall in London which says that they have a legal responsibility effectively to make sure the school is in good order. And so lots of them sit on our governing body, but as part of his wife's largely work around the town, there's lots of pockets of land that the Grocers own,
Okay.
but it's nothing to do with school. So
Got
the area of the forest they planted last year, Coronation Wood or Jubilee Wood, that's Grocers land. And I understand, I could be wrong, that the football club is on the same. I might be wrong. So
I've just sent the video.
Okay.
It's a very short one.
But I was lucky enough to see it in action last year, and it's a proper flow, lots of water. And of course, the stream heading down to the river can't cope with it, so it bubbles up all over the fields. But it makes the drillable car park quite straightforward, I suspect.
Okay. So from our point of view, if it's not our land, if it's not, I mean, where do we essentially come
I
into
think
it?
what you can do is mediate and advise.
Okay.
We can't do anything directly, only indirectly.
Okay.
I mean, the Lisa will know who she needs to speak to, because I'm assuming, I think she's the secretary, isn't she? She'll know who she deals with usually, will she?
I suspect so.
Yeah.
I can raise a question.
I mean, I said to her, we'll discuss it and we'll see if anybody knows any names that you could suggest. But then I realised when I said to her, where exactly is it? Because I thought it might be not on the land.
Sorry, this is the video.
Is it? Has it got sound to it then? I never heard the sound.
I thought you were watching Netflix.
This
It's a video of Netflix.
not usually the time up to date.
When I was reporting a block drain a while ago on Street Doctor, it gave me locations and drains,
Yeah.
which is very exciting. And I can't see that now, it's whether they've gone. But there must be a map somewhere
Of all the drains they're
where
responsible
all the
for.
pipes
Yeah.
go under the ground.
Yeah.
Can we access
Not on
that?
private land.
Well, no, but the one that comes under Waitrose must come
Oh, I
up
see.
East Road.
Yes, you can access it. It's on the web, but I think you have to pay for it.
Anglia Water will go to DigiDat. Do we have an account with DigiDat?
Not as far as I know.
With respect, I don't think we're ever going to solve all the water problems now.
No,
We're in a loop of the river there are springs all over the place.
I wasn't intending to solve
And
it.
if
I
you
was,
send one away, it will come up somewhere else.
Anglia
This is the
Water
problem.
are having that, but I think you have to pay for it.
Wouldn't Waitrose have some sort of map, like once they, because they built their,
they might do. I was just wondering if we had access, because there's the definitive map, and we have access to other bits of the Northern Hants map, but I suspect this is outside their remit as well.
So just going back to what you were saying about, why is it that, why pipes on private land not, why is there not a record, public record of those?
Because it's private
Because
land.
it's private land. Yeah, but
I mean,
it's still,
so
yeah,
Anglia Water only have responsibility for discharging water on public land, essentially the highway.
okay,
How you route
Yeah.
water from private land to that is up to the private property owner.
okay. That's
you know,
interesting.
your responsibility ends at the end of, with your boundary of your property.
But this,
But anything on your property is you.
this pipe's massive,
Mm.
and I suspect it catches road water out of the gullies around East Road and pumps it out to the river. But then the question is, when is it highways' responsibility? When is it Anglia Waters? When is it building owners?
There should be, I mean, I remember Waitrose has now got permission to essentially double the size of the supermarket they have. So,
More milk.
yeah,
And if you look at the field next to it, where part of the wharf is held,
yeah,
there are effectively drainage ditches all the way around the
Mm.
field, and that's what this field needs.
right.
You could try talking to the water company though, because I'm in the middle of this discussion.
Mm.
And why they've said I won't have to pay for the investigations under my garden is because it's the mains water supply. So I haven't got to pay for it
Because it's probably also taking water from,
from Herne Road,
yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
That's different.
the drain, the main drain.
But I suspect, I raised the point with Anglia Water that since they're digging up the road here quite soon, they could, while they were there, fix their drains that don't take the water away. And they said the problem is that one division of Anglia Water doesn't work with the other division of Anglia Water, and they can't take responsibility for the same thing. So in this case, we're probably talking about drains versus someone else. And someone somewhere will know.
Okay,
Find out who then.
If you go back to Lisa and tell her to get in contact with me,
Right, okay.
I'm meeting with Amy in a couple of weeks about something, and I'll start.
Flag it then.
rolling.
Okay.
I'll take it as my summer challenge.
okay, thank you. Okay, next, Flatton House, Sea report. Okay, so it's our yearly tour coming up. When is good for everyone?
So I'm just trying to find the document.
I think last year we did it in regions, didn't we, which I sent round, but I'm not sure, they're on the team, but that doesn't work, so that's not much help. I think last year we did it in chunks, didn't we?
I sent the maps out, didn't I, that
Yeah, yeah,
for everybody, so.
I'm away from the 15th of July to the 31st or 30th, but do have a tour without me.
What does the tour consist of? Sorry, I've not been aware of these tours before.
It's basically looking at what we own and looking at what needs doing.
So this is a tour of us
yeah,
touring around, yeah,
Yeah.
so, okay.
So I think last year we did it in groups because someone couldn't make the day off,
Yeah.
someone couldn't make nights.
No, that's fine,
And then
I
we
just
sort of
didn't, I
put it
just wanted
together.
to understand the process.
Yeah, then we sort of put the ideas together in the July meeting. So, as I recall. But I won't be here for the July meeting either.
Because it's historically, we did it for a whole day, and it's a long day. And then I think it was Liz couldn't make it till 2, wasn't it? So we started doing it of an afternoon, and then last year someone came, I think Ian came up with the idea of splitting it down. Because obviously it covers the length and breadth of Arundel, so it's quite difficult to condense it all in one day, and you just do a whistle-stop tour if you do it all in one
Yeah,
day.
you end up with a really good review of the first place and the last place.
And then you're
Two
Yeah.
rushing for the
Mm.
last.
We've had all sorts of ways of doing it over the years.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I personally think it's a very valuable thing
No, it
to do.
is. It is.
Because there are
Especially
so
for
many-
new councillors, because there's lots of bits, little
Absolutely, I
bits
think
of
they
land that
should-
you don't
should
realise
be.
we own.
The date should certainly be okay for them because they're the most important.
I mean, weekends and evenings are best for me, so.
But it sounds as though we're not going to get it done on an evening unless we have 7 evenings.
Or head torches.
So Ian, you're away the 15th to the 31st, did you say?
Yes, or 30th, one of the two.
I'm away the 10th to the 14th.
Okay, so,
Should we do
Not that I need to specifically be there, but
Can
yeah,
we send a doodle poll,
can,
or do we need to do this now?
No, we can do it without.
Could send a raft of dates on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, because it'd be good for Lisa, with Lisa being a new councillor, it'd be good if she was able to make it.
It doesn't have to be July, does it? It could be August.
Yeah, no, it's just,
Yeah,
it's,
we've done it Saturdays before
Yeah.
now.
okay,
So Matt
Sundays
volunteers
is
to
nothing.
a thing.
Well, unless we can agree a date now, we don't need to do it. I mean, I'm just suggesting that we could do it by doodle poll.
I suggest we go away and come up with a date and talk via email or.
Shall I set up a doodle poll?
Yes, please.
a what?
A doodle poll?
Yes,
Yeah.
It's a little webby thing that you can go do, and then gradually you'll see that certain days become.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
It's quite cool.
Thank you, Max.
I'm sorry, in doing this, do people prefer it all to be done on one day, or should we specify half days?
Yeah, I personally think splitting it up.
Well, I'll set the doodle poll into morning and afternoon.
Yeah,
And if people obviously tick both for the same day, then we might be able to do it.
yeah.
Okay. And include Saturdays as well, or are they off bounds?
yeah, well,
So that's fine, man.
Okay, right. Fine, I just wanted to
Yeah.
going in.
could you just put it on a common garden email to me, please?
Now, well, it will come to you by an email, and you click on the link,
That's, I can manage that.
you tick the grid,
Thank you, I can
you then
manage
enter
that.
your name and email address, and that's all you need to do.
Okay,
Excellent, okay.
good. Okay, moving on. The hub, nothing to report. QVH. Stuff in the.
Yeah, what, the decorator that we've used before,
Oh, right.
he's, having a look. I met up with him a week or so ago. I said to him, there's no massive rush for getting a quote because, he's busy anyway, and we've got to check the budget. I can't remember whether we've got enough in the budget for it, depending on what he quotes. So, but yeah, he should come back to me by the end of this week, I should imagine.
Okay. That's
Same,
good.
same with the courthouse.
Same courthouse, yeah, yeah. Okay, so we'll go on to the courthouse. Office 6, decorating, lighting and flooring works. There's quotes, and also the paintwork, which we did. So the lift check's been done. Is the damp issue, that's still,
Yeah, I had a word with Nobby about that today. I said we need to get on it really because the ladies emailed me again to see if there's any progress. So he's got to take the vent out, establish where the water's coming from because we think it's coming from the chimney. Sort that out and then replace the skirting and treat the damp. Apparently you can get some pellets or something that you drill into the wall. So that's on his list of urgent things to do because on Friday where having a meeting with them and going through this new, not new regime, but a more detailed maintenance plan, rather than it be, we know this job needs doing, it will be done at some point. They've caught up with the grass cutting, so I said to them, we're going to have a monthly stroke weekly work schedule. So if Monday you think you're going to be grass cutting, that's what goes down in the schedule. But then if you think you've got some time Tuesday to fit the second bench in the rec, and things like that, just so that we're on top of these bits. The stab kit, I mentioned about the stab kit again, things that have just, not got done. Yeah, and it's all well and good saying it'll get done at some point. We need to sort of have deadlines.
Because that damp patch that's 2-3 months.
Yeah. So when I had a word with him today, he said they are caught up with the grass cutting. So I said we need to delegate the jobs so that Nobby knows what he's doing, Tony knows what he's doing, and we're getting bits fitted in and around the regular grass cutting.
Okay. So the quotes for the work that needs doing at the courthouse.
Oh, Office 6, yes, the new tenant, if you remember, he had a specific request of stripping the wood chip off and replastering. So he's now come back with the works, the quotes that he got, because obviously you said to us last time, get him to come back and we'll consider, because it's in your interests or in our interests for this work to be done. So to consider what, if any, contribution you want to make to the cost.
Is this the team?
No, this is the other one, Office 6. He's Ben from Glide. He does online, I think, tutorials, so he wanted a plain backdrop behind it. So I'd said to him, obviously, basic painting, cleaning of the carpet or replacing the carpet we normally do, but anything that's specific to his requirements, then obviously we probably expect him to put the cost, but you did say last time that you would consider a contribution. So that's what I'd like you to do. Right. He's chosen the cheapest decorating cost.
1456.
Yeah. And then he's also spoken about new carpet.
300 quid.
And then he also suggested LED lighting, which I got the quote just to see from Sadler's.
Can I throw a quick LED lighting thing in?
Yeah.
According to the budget, we spend, it might be more this year, 16,000 on electricity at the courthouse. LED lighting, for whatever lighting takes up of that, is, let's say, 60 to 80% more efficient than normal fluorescents.
Okay.
And the LED quote was 265, give or take.
Yeah, well, 24807 plus that.
Given the fact we cover the electricity out of our own payments, it strikes me that at least getting the LED fitted there, and maybe other offices while Sadler's are in, seems a bit of a no-brainer.
Well, if you remember as well, Sadler's did say the fluorescent ones had been discontinued. So, and I think we decided rather than get them all done straight away, wait for them to fail and then do them. But like you say, if they're there and we've got others, then it might be worth it.
So certainly doing this one makes sense now. If they're in and can do a couple more, than right. But that seems a no-brainer from our point of view. Because we'll save money in the long run.
In terms of budget wise, is something like this accounted for? I'm guessing not, right?
We've got 5,000 R&M in the courthouse
Repairs
budget.
and maintenance,
We
yeah.
spent 268 or something.
Okay. But this damp thing could be,
More.
Well, the quotes that I got for the tanking were around about 2,000.
okay.
But as I said to you before, neither of those two people that came in lifted the floor tiles or tried to pull any of the skirting off, so they didn't explore what was coming from where or anything like that. And so what we think is happening, we think we'll be able to do in-house.
Okay.
We think we'll be able to solve those issues in-house rather than paying for tanking that essentially possibly won't sort the problem out. But until Nobby and Tony do the extra exploratory work, we're not entirely sure.
Okay.
Have we spent any of the RNM budget?
228 as of
228.
April, as of June, I'm not sure.
Okay.
As of the 2nd of June.
Yeah, that's the most up-to-date one that you sent me.
Did you say it's normal to replace the carpet? Or-
No, if it's in good condition, we will clean, well, we have them cleaned every year anyway. But if it's marked, we did replace the carpet in one of the rooms for a new tenant because it was really quite bad. And then the other tenant in that area, they replaced their own flooring because they wanted specific flooring. They agreed to pay for that. And the same with their radiator. They wanted a nice modern radiator, which was about twice the price of a standard radiator that would do the job. So we agreed to pay what we would pay the standard fee, and then they, for the upgrade, paid the extra. So that's normally how we do it.
So he's mentioned the lights, he's mentioned 300 for a new carpet.
Yeah,
And then there's the decoration of 1456.
yeah.
Can I just, are the tenants meant to restore the room to proper use when they leave? Why would we be having to redecorate?
Well, they're meant to make it clean and tidy, yeah. But if they've like one of them wanted to paint different walls in different colours and things like that, which we said you can do that, but when you leave, it has to go back to Magnolia.
Yes,
it has to go back. But if there's a few chips in the paintwork and things like that, we don't insist that they repaint it, because usually in between tenants, well, I've been led to believe that it's usual that Nobby will go in and just refresh it with a coat of paint, but that is all we do. Make sure the carpet's clean and make sure the walls are clean.
But in this case, it's wood chips and things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's specifically wanting to make a change. But it's a change that
Yeah.
gets rid of wood chips, so.
Just checking, because things can slide.
Oh, yeah, anything that's specific to their requirements, and it's not just the bog standard stuff that we would normally do, then
Yeah.
I tell them that they have to pay for it. In fact, I did say to him, I told him exactly that. I said, depending on the cost, you will probably have to foot these bills.
Yeah.
But as I say, then when I brought it to you, you did say it was the opinion that this is going to benefit us as well because it's our property. So you would consider contributing.
I would be happy to say propose that we cover the lighting because we would have to do it at some point anyway. And say we'll cover half the costs of everything else. That would be my proposal.
I would agree with the lighting, I'd say half might be a bit generous, but whether you go a third or a quarter, I don't know.
Yeah.
Everyone else does.
Part of me says I'd like to see what the quote is first.
The quote for the
Yeah.
wood chips on there,
Yeah, it's on here.
yes,
1456.
I was looking at. So, but are we accepting that quote? Yes.
Oh, he says that's the cheapest. He got 3 quotes and he says that's the cheapest.
In which case then, and we are, the wood chip thing, we are doing it really to suit their requirements.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it as
I
it
think
is.
50/50 is a bit,
25%, yeah.
So happy to pay for the lighting and then 25% of the carpet and the redecoration.
But do you think the carpet's in good nick?
is it going to need replacing anyway?
The stuff we have are the carpet tiles and they're very hard wearing. I can't remember how bad it is. It's I can't remember it being awful, but,
Again, if we wouldn't normally replace it for a new tenant, then I'm not entirely sure we can justify the expense.
Yeah, I'd go 25% of the wood chip decoration, because we get a benefit from that.
Yeah.
And we do the lighting. That would be,
Yeah.
comfortable for me.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to
I'll
propose
propose
that then?
that.
Yeah.
So we'll get the lighting done ourselves effectively,
cover the lighting, yeah.
and we'll add 25% of the decoration cost at 1456,
Yeah.
which is 350.
Okay. Do you have a seconder?
Yeah.
Val got in there first. All
Sorry,
those in
Matt.
favour?
Go for it, Matt.
There we go. Okay, brilliant. So that
Thank
is the courthouse. Car parks and parking. Now, obviously, we spoke to Ashley earlier. Is there anything else?
Well, it seems to me, particularly given what Ashley helpfully informed us about, we've got to get to a stage where we both agree regulations and get them displayed, because otherwise, many of the complaints that we have, we can't do anything about.
So I stole those
Yeah,
ones from
one
someone the other day. And whether it's worth getting those sent to the British, I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Car parking people and seeing what they think. I suppose the question is, do we want to ask highways to enforce, or do we do it ourselves?
Yeah, I wasn't entirely clear about some of his answers about who has to agree this, whether it needs.
I mean, my understanding of what he said was, if we go to a private company and we say we want you to enforce our parking regulations.
I got that.
Yeah, they do their bit. If we say we've put these signs up, I think you recommended we had the British Car
Yeah.
Parking Association look at it. And if we want them to enforce on our land, then we'd have to put a traffic regulation on.
Yeah.
So the middle one's vague.
But if we were getting them to do it, it'd be tied into a contract and heaven knows what.
Possibly.
Yeah. But the first step is that we've got to get this list of 8 regulations which have been lifted, as you rightly say, from somewhere else. I assume agreed. I think we have to recommend them probably to full council, I assume.
Yes, I agree.
What we've got to think through, because full council will undoubtedly ask this, is what are the cost implications of doing this? And it seems to me that there's a direct cost implication, which is physically erecting a sign with said regulations on. But then we go back to the enforcement issue.
And one of them, in the lifted one, point number 5, I've written North Northamptonshire Council as the enforcement authority, because Suffolk used Newark.
Yeah.
But if we didn't use North Northampton, we'd have to have a blank line and insert a sticker. Yeah. Or we just say, or do we not?
I think there's too
Well,
many.
we can still be the enforcement authority, but we just subcontract that work privately. We don't have to do it by NNC,
Yeah, that's true.
as I understood actually.
I believe so.
I was also confused about him saying, well, you can't just paint white lines on, because that's what they've done at the Wharf.
And that's what I think you can do around that.
Yeah, you can.
I'm quite sure.
We've never applied to anybody when we've repainted anything, as far as I'm aware. Obviously, the design was done, the ones that I sent to you, Max, the original designs, because they gave us 2 designs, didn't they? But then,
Yeah.
as far as I know, we just go to a contractor who specialises, same with the double yellow lines out here. We just went to a contractor because that's our land.
Precisely. That might be a slightly red herring, because that's again downstream, we've got to get the regulations up first. I can see these, but has everybody else seen them?
No.
They're on Teams.
Oh.
Parking regulations.
Clearly, that's very effective.
No, you can't.
Yeah, that.
While you do it, because I've been trying.
Draft
I
parking
think there are
lot.
two sorts of issues, because there's one about the car parks are ours, they don't belong to Harrow, they're the county. As it happens, they're not county ones. So if we put notices up, which I'm absolutely all for, and I think it's definitely the first step, the enforcement of it would have to be done by us if we were going to enforce. We might succeed with this in that it might be just about as much as we need on the whole.
Well, indeed.
But if we can't expect the county enforcement people to come in and enforce. So it's two different issues,
Precisely,
isn't it?
and I completely agree with it,
Yeah.
completely different issues. And again, if I understood actually correctly, he was saying, well, you can either go to the NNT and ask them effectively to take it over,
Yeah,
which I'm not sure we want to do, because the next thing
Exactly.
they'll be charging. And we'll completely lose control of it, regardless of whose land it is. Or we get in a private contractor, or we actually possibly do nothing. I think what he was saying is that if you're going to say, this is 2 hours parking, you've got to have somebody going around every 2 hours to the site. But I'm not sure we're in that kind of.
No.
I don't think we are.
I don't
I
think we
agree
are.
with you totally.
I think this is more about a stepped approach where the first thing is to try and actually simply stop people abusing the car parks in the way of selling cars, leaving untaxed cars there, etc., etc. So it gives us the remit, or it gives us the permission, effectively, to get cars towed out.
Yeah.
And I think if we're seen to take some of those actions, then hopefully we'll police itself.
I agree totally.
And I think this is the first step. And we try it for a limited period. And if we find that it has to be enforced in some way or another, then we rethink.
Is there another halfway house of actually putting some of these bylaws up on a laminated poster somewhere on a fence, so at least there's a start?
Absolutely. When I say it needs to get the point is there will be some costs, whether it be a laminated whatever.
I think you'll need some
I
more
think-
I'm not
substantial
sure where the
laminated.
expense is going to be.
As far as I
Maybe meaning in things like, have you lost your dog?
But it
We could
presumably
put
needs to
something
be.
up on a post around the town saying, is this your car? We're about to take it to
It
go.
needs to be somewhere near the entrance, stroke exit. Because you can't stick it in the corner, because I always
Yeah.
would say, well, I never saw the regulations.
Yeah.
It's got to be fairly visible.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that the obvious place to put it in the drill hall is in that space to the left as you go in.
Yep.
Yep.
And you might want it double faced, so you can see it as you enter and you can see it as you exit, if you see it.
But if we put posts in there, we might lose a possible car parking space.
Indeed.
So that we could
So-
this.
It's going to cost some money, one way or the other.
I'm just wondering whether it's worth checking with the British Association, whoever they were, if we put something a bit temporary up for the next couple of months as a way of starting to
Yeah.
get that one car towed.
Yeah.
And then if the sign was, the wording was okay and no one complained, then we could get a proper sign
Yeah.
put in there.
Absolutely.
After that.
Yeah,
It's a step-by-step approach. And we just need to find a company that does towing.
that does the towing.
We'll probably have to pay
Oh,
to
Yeah.
belong to the British Association of Parking, you know that.
Well worth it, well worth it.
Okay.
Yes,
Right, give me.
God, that's it.
Isn't it?
I've got a lot on there.
Yeah, you're right, Max, because parking is a problem, and spaces within a car park are a problem. And we don't know how much of it is abuse.
Yeah.
We'll find out, won't we?
Indeed.
Okay,
So what have we agreed?
so yeah, yeah.
Approaching British Association of Parking Signs to find out what kind of sign we can put up as a temporary measure, and if there's any specific requirements for it to look right and be legal.
And I assume Ian's list has to go to full council.
Yeah, it probably needs a bit of tweaking.
Do you want me to go to the British Association of Parking Signs, Ian, or are you doing that?
If you can wait for next week, I can do it. This week's not so good.
I'll Google it and see if I can get anywhere, but
I'll try and put a tone.
I'm just thinking if we, rather than a laminated sign, I think if we get is it an AO poster made up or on the Corex, you know, the ones like we have for the
Yeah.
parking signs,
That's not a bad idea.
because it just looks a bit more professional.
I think
Whether people will take any notice of it or not, but I think a laminated,
But that's not the point,
Sign.
is it? At the moment, we've got nothing.
Mm.
We can't do anything. At least if we do something, we can do something.
Yes.
so if I ask pumpkin print, because that won't be a huge cost, they're not very expensive to get those done.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think we're agreed on that, so we need to be down tonight on that one.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Does your list specifically mention red minis with flat tyres?
Yeah.
No.
But if you'd like to, it's fine as well.
Val's suggestion was quite good, so do you think I should put it out on social media about the picture of this mini and say, is this your car? If
It's not
so,
really harm, is it? There's no GDPR issue, it's not.
no,
Everyone knows about it.
Yeah.
Do you reckon?
and it's been there for a year, it's not like, yeah.
Decided to have a crackdown on people selling.
I just assume it's just been left there with the car. It's actually.
It's not, yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
No.
Problem at all.
Sounds
I was looking at it, it's handled, yeah. Anyone else that we looked after?
Probably one of your pupils.
Yeah, probably is, yeah, I bet it
Yeah,
is.
it's probably my fault something. I probably couldn't find out. It's not.
Right, properties and open spaces, nothing from the rugby, golf, tennis, or the rec, skate park, etc.
No.
Yeah,
Quick questions, have we had a cow update for Snipe Meadow?
Yes, they are coming, but we were a little bit premature last year because the actual lease, I think, agreement is from the end of July, and I think we put them on at the end of June.
They've got free grazing.
But I've had a word with Bruce, the chap from the what's it called?
North Hants Wildlife.
That's it, yeah. And he said he will inspect because all they're waiting for, the reason we put that date on was to make sure the brown nesting birds have gone. So he said he will come down and do a check, and he said, and if he thinks it's safe for the cows to come on early again, he's quite happy for that to happen. So I'm hoping that soon they'll be back. I don't believe the babies are coming though. I think they're going to be left in a different field. I think it's just the old girls coming. Don't say that.
okay. In regards to Snipe Meadow, etc., the bench is on its way.
I've not ordered it yet because obviously we're backing up with benches. So as soon as they've fitted the one in the recreation ground, which, as I say, I'll speak to them about that this Friday, and hopefully get that ordered this Friday.
Cool. Trees. Saplings still in care, Councillor Clark. Planting in the autumn. Still alive. Is that the update? Because it does say update.
They were on Sunday.
They've got a good watering.
Yeah. There was a large broken branch in the cemetery that's been removed.
Yeah, that was reported by somebody visiting their family grave. I think the heaviness of the water, obviously a couple of branches, because another one at the back of the chapel came down as well, which our maintenance team managed that one, but this other one was really high up, quite a substantial branch, and it was just hanging in midair. So that's why I called the tree surgeon out, and he did it that day.
Workshop. Container is installed.
Yeah.
And might I ask something
Yes.
in relation to that, which I have a personal interest in? Philip Hance is shortly going on a well-earned holiday, and he will be away when the Fletton Field event is on,
Mhm.
and party at the wharf.
Yeah.
And it may be that there are things in the container that
Oh,
both
no.
of the organisers of those events
We'll need.
would like to borrow.
Well, Emma's
So-
buying a lock for it, so we will have. Philip had said he will use one of his locks for now, which he'll get a key to us. But I should imagine Emma will have sorted our own lock by then, so
Right.
we'll have the key.
So come to you,
Yeah.
come to Emma.
And he's
And-
put all of our
But
bits
we're
and
not
pieces
moving
away.
to what's in there.
No, but that's going to happen because apparently Philip emailed Emma and I this morning, or yesterday morning, I think it was. And over the weekend, when he decided to put our barriers and everything away in our new container, a gentleman turned up and said he'd been told by his neighbour that he could take 2 barriers. He was having a skip delivered, and he'd been told that they were for use for anybody. So obviously Philip said we need to get these put away. So I mean that could be why some of them keep getting broken, because we use them at our events, then all of a sudden we find that 3 legs have broken off them. So if somebody's been ducking into the back of amps and merrily making off with, and we don't know who it is.
I'll contact you downstream.
Yeah, so we're going to do an
Yeah,
inventory, and
yeah.
we're going to basically have an agreement with people, sign things in, sign them out, sign them back in
I
again.
might need to go and see have a rummage around and see what's there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So,
Sorry.
no, that's fine. Nothing for EV charging for St Peter's Church?
Nope. Yes.
Cemetery.
Yes, I don't know whether you saw the documents. I kept meaning to bring this to council because I said to Emma, I don't understand why the rules and conditions of interment in the cemetery state that you can't have a memorial any bigger than 3 foot by 2 foot, and yet on our list of fees and charges it says a headstone not exceeding 4 foot 6 inches. So basically 2 things. Which are we deciding on? Which is it? I would have said it would be the big one. There's very few people that come and ask for a headstone that big. They're usually about 3 foot by 2 foot. And then the other thing that somebody queried with me, on memorials number 1C, on the reverse of the memorial at the top right hand side shall be inscribed the plot number in numerals approximately 80 millimetres high. So lots of people don't bother doing that. It's never been enforced, and somebody did say to me, could the numbers, happy to put those on, because we said for us managing the cemetery, it makes it easier to find places, but so have them slightly smaller and say bottom right hand corner. I can't see there being an issue as long as it's on there and we know where it is and we can see it. I think that's fine, because 80 millimetres is quite big.
80 mils, it's not, it's tiny.
Is it?
80 millimetres.
Oh, did I bet I
It's not,
It's less than
It's
70
already
metres.
done.
Oh yes, it is. Why did I think it was
It's
big?
8
And if
centimetres.
you ever bring a ruler with, I forgot.
It's about that big.
Yeah.
It's smaller than that, I think. Isn't it?
Well, it's 8 centimetres, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, that is quite big. But it's not as big as Well, 10 mils a third.
If you were watching this in
Why did you? I don't know
no
why.
sound, you
As long as some people do, every once in a while, at least it could be an indicator.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, moving forward, I did say to this person that said about it, I said, well, we've never enforced it since I've been here, and I said I'm quite happy for it to be on there if I know where it's going to be, at least for me. But I did say with the new part of the cemetery, when we've cleared that top part, I think then we'll start saying, no, we do want the numbers on there, because we'll have a new numbering system there. And I think for anybody that walks into my shoes when I've gone, it needs to be clearer,
And it's a
the
long way to
information.
walk just to find a grave.
It
if you
is,
haven't
yeah.
got some kind of-
Yeah.
80 mil is 3.14 inches.
So that's still quite big though, isn't it, for a plot?
But it does say,
What you're
not to
doing
see
there is much bigger
approximately.
than that.
Yeah, no, that's about 3 inches, isn't it?
The other thing about having it at the bottom is as the grass grows up and the soil rises,
Mm.
you won't see it. So
Okay, yeah.
being in the top.
This is a fairly standard practice, isn't it?
Yeah,
In graveyards, yeah, I think I've seen it
Yes,
before, yeah. Okay. So
So
it's not,
I say stick with approximately, because that allows 70.
yeah.
At the moment,
okay.
there's nothing.
So the same place then, and approximately, yeah, 80. What about the sizings then? What are we thinking in terms of sizings? There's a few that are
4'6".
4'6".
Pretty big. But that's sort of Victorian, isn't it?
I quite like there being a difference.
There's lots of
There's a
different.
range of sizes rather than it looking
I mean,
like a military
yeah,
ceremony
yeah.
where they're all the same size. Personally.
I just can't think of a grave I've seen in the last 100 years, maybe, that is anything over standard sort of.
So is that in height or width or both?
It's height, it says height.
Height. So that's 137 centimetres.
Yeah, so that's 4'6".
And that's pretty big.
And I can only think of one.
It's like a large shop.
4 foot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 4'6" is there. I can only think of one that I know, a big white one that's been installed.
Right.
The rest of them are all much smaller.
And what's 900 millimetres? That's under 3 foot.
Yeah, just that's that.
So why do we need a limit if people don't put them any higher anyway?
It's always just big.
I
It's
guess,
always been
yeah.
in the
You've
rules.
got to have enforce it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and an instance that's just happened that I've had to phone the grave owner. I think you're probably familiar with the grave of Sister Rosalie Temple. And a certain community have kind of made it like a shrine. And I got a phone call the other day from somebody saying, "Oh, I see that you've started to allow fences around individual graves."
Oh, yes.
And I said, "No, we
Yeah.
haven't. Those rules haven't changed." She said, "Well, there's somebody who's come up and installed a small picket fence
Yeah.
around Sister Rosalie's grave. The people who've done it don't own the grave, so obviously I clarified with the owner today that it wasn't him that erected it. So we're going to take the fencing down and just put a notice saying it's been removed for 2 reasons. The permission of the grave owner was not given, and also it's against our regulations to put anything like curbstones or anything. It's always been in our regulations not to allow
And
that."
the other thing is the glass pen things that we don't allow, the glass chips.
Yeah.
Make sure that we put that in them.
So yeah, you have to have sets of rules for
Yeah.
just to some things to us are obvious that you shouldn't do it, but to other people they're not. So
Okay.
I'd say we keep the 900 by 600 and the 80 mil thing.
Why would people suddenly put a fence around a grave that's not theirs?
they did approach me to put the memorial stone, and I said it's not your grave. The person who owns the grave is the one that has the right
Who
to
is
put a
this
headstone.
person?
She was a nun
Okay.
and well loved by the traveller community.
Okay.
So she gets a lot of visitors, and they always bring lots of stuff. And yeah, it's,
Okay.
We'll show you on the tour.
yeah.
Just talking about the cemetery and talking about seeing things, I went down to say hello to our fence painter
Oh,
on
yeah.
Sunday, but I didn't, I might have missed them. Are they sort of going down?
They're supposed to be, yeah. What sort of time did you go down?
3-ish? So I
3-ish.
might have missed them.
They're probably
But
not
it didn't
top
look
by
like
then.
there was any painting, but they might have cleared and scraped and everything. I just thought I'd check.
I'll check. I'll get Emma to check with the team leader and see what sort of time they were. Right. So have we got a proposal? Are we happy
Yeah.
with staying at the?
I'll propose to stay at the.
I'll second that. All those in favour?
Okay. Perfect.
Okay, excellent. Nothing for the James Strong Centre. But markets, The equipment has been purchased, which I've seen some more, and there was a new sign, I've seen that as well, it's quite good. Appears to be working, yeah, which is good.
The new chain.
Yes,
Yeah,
actually,
it's
so,
on more
yeah,
of
we've not had
really fast, and
anybody.
she's it's good.
Still car parks, cars being parked there, is that right? Out the front. It says market manager still reported cars parked possibly overnight, so still on the way in the morning when traders tried to set up
Yeah.
3 this week.
Going back to our previous conversation about car parks, we don't have any right to put our regulations there, do we?
There's already,
I know it's
the
a
market
sign,
regulations
Yeah, there
that
are.
say no parking for the market day.
And that's highways.
That's a highway sign, yeah.
I'm just wondering whether or not we should threaten to have cars towed away at the owner's expense.
Mm.
Once we run a territory. They don't know the distance.
It can only be a threat. We've tried in the past,
Yeah.
and
There's issues with even enforcing or putting tickets on their cars, isn't there? I know Karen
Yeah.
tried to speak to the traffic enforcement
yeah, we could
officers.
probably do that. It would be very unofficial.
Because it's an event, it's classed as an event, isn't it, when we close that road off officially for a
Absolutely.
market? So he said you can't then ticket people. I honestly don't understand how that works, but
But we are the market, as it were, traditionally
Mm.
holders.
yeah.
So I suppose we could try. But we have tried. We used to have a thing that the police would come and move them, but they gave that up.
Mm.
When I was in the market, I think it was at the May one, not the April one, there was a car there. And in fact, a young lady came to recover the car at about 10 o'clock. And I tapped on her window and said, you know, you're not allowed to park here. She said, oh, she said, I didn't see the sign. I said, you parked right in front of me. She was incredibly apologetic, explaining that she was visiting somebody, she didn't live here. And I said, you're lucky that it hasn't been towed away.
Good.
And the point is that then she had to be escorted out.
Out,
because,
yeah, this is the
Oh,
thing.
right.
Well, you see, Karen, when she was physically down there, she wouldn't let them out.
No,
She'd
she
say to
didn't.
them, you have to stay until the end of the market because it's a health and safety issue.
Yeah,
But see, that's a tricky thing because then they can get aggressive, and it's like we were saying before, do you really want to put your staff members or volunteers, you don't want to put their safety in jeopardy, so.
They can't drive out past the chain, so it's like
Mm.
the chain will hold it.
Exactly.
It's one of those really tricky.
Yeah, maybe clamping them with a, feet
That's
on
fine.
clamp them
Yeah.
might be an easy
I,
solution
I suppose we'd have to check.
if we.
the
have
legalities
the
of that.
right
I mean, you see it all the time, don't you, in London car parks, that they have private clamping
Yes.
companies and.
no, they have very aggressive private companies,
Mm.
don't they? So it's the difference.
Okay. Town events. The Ian Taylor Fair requested to stand on the rack. Is this the same fair as last year?
He didn't end up coming last year, I don't
Right,
think.
okay. 17th to 23rd of December.
He is a regular, he has come fairly regularly, yeah.
The only thing I've written down is, does he know about Angela Water?
Yeah, indeed.
Oh, yes, actually.
There'll be a large chunk of stuff, and if they're parking on the basketball court, so there's anything to go by, they might be spilling over.
What's the Anglia Water thing?
There's a compound down there being built.
Has it been built yet? I've not
Well,
been down
It
there.
wasn't this morning at 8:30, but there were 2 diggers.
They're starting the beginning of July though, aren't they? So, yeah,
Yeah,
if that, I don't think
that's
that's
7
going to be
days.
doable at
So
all.
we'll be there by then.
They'll be there for a year.
We're
Oh.
taking off a small chunk.
They're taken behind the basketball court, aren't they?
Okay.
Yeah, technically,
Is it 30 metres by 10 or something?
30 by 30. But the other issue might be will they be able to get their vehicles in?
No, I think it's probably going to be a no then.
Do you want to ask them? Do they? Yeah, about the Anglo Moor thing and say, look.
I think it was 10 by 10 when they first came to us. Then Emma saw that there was information that said 30 by 30. And when she queried that, I'm sure the lady came back and said, no, it's 10 by 30. I think it's the entire width of the basketball court.
It's rectangular. isn't it?
Yeah.
There was a man measuring yesterday morning. So phase 2 of Anglia Water's work will start on the 4th of September, and that's a long new road.
Yeah.
So whether they'll be up and down that section, I don't know, but they'll be doing a rolling road block on there. I mean, this now is the really big problem.
I think it'd be too much to.
Yeah, maybe just send them that link.
Yeah.
So it's on the website, so.
Okay. Yeah, Christmas market prep starting our food festival out of the way, which went very well. Feedback was generally very good. Trader reported being down by 45%. That was the curry store, wasn't it? Although I thought it was quite warm that day. So.
Yeah, I mean, we had this conversation. He said it's difficult to identify what factors would have made their takings down. Others reported they had not such great decrease in sales, but and then others did better. So you just don't know. It's one of those things you just don't know really, unless you did a people's poll and spoke to everybody. You just wouldn't know what the factors are. But
People have sort of complained to me and sort of said, there were gaps, why were they so spread out, blah, blah, blah. I'm saying, well, we tell people they can come, we can't guarantee, we can't force them onto the.
no, it's not that. We have to make room for the existing shops. The reason we spread it out now is we had so many complaints that the people that are paying business rates, quite high business rates, felt excluded because they've got stalls in front of them. So we designed it, and the first time we did it was with COVID precautions in mind. So made it much more spread out, but then it pleased everybody. The business owners were happy, the traders were happy.
Fine.
It's not gaps because people haven't turned up. Everybody bar one turned up.
I heard anecdotal evidence from one or two traders who I chatted to that they said they hadn't seen any road signs or road advertising coming in, which is maybe something that
Okay, that's interesting.
at the Christmas fair.
Yeah.
Because we get a lot of passing traffic on the 6th
Yeah.
of July. So even if we just put something up.
Well, we were looking at the banners. The Fringe obviously put those big
Right, yeah.
banners.
Yeah.
We've obviously got to be careful that the roads aren't full of banners.
Yeah.
So I think we'd have to stagger it. And because the food festival is so close to the Fringe Festival, we'd have to be really careful. But yeah, that's something we're going to look into
For the Christmas
next
one, you
year.
could also just put them up that week and it could just be food festival
Yeah.
this Saturday. So it wouldn't have a date on it.
Yeah.
The other one is when I was over in Salttree a while ago, and I'll bring it in sometime. They've got a big sort of newspaper about community events.
Yeah.
And that idea of us advertising to our local region, that's the sort of thing that we could probably get in the Christmas edition about now. And a couple other local things just to start raising that profile.
Awareness, yeah. Yeah.
I'll bring it in.
Yeah, okay. Just out of query, what is because it said the coastal may be too hot or financial pinch. What is the rate for a market stall?
The catering is 95 and non-catering is 80.
Okay.
Which is considerably cheaper than I think what Creative Oundle charged. I think Rowan did a much more detailed if it's this size or if it's a trailer, and I think we looked at that with the Christmas markets, but the then estates decided we'd just stick with the two fees, either catering or non-catering. Obviously if it's a double pitch.
We were at Kelmarsh a while ago, and it's a different beast because it's a big show, but there are people there with just hamburger stalls paying 4,500 for a weekend.
Yeah.
One day, which was washed out. But yes, it's good to get a good mix of people in. And we don't need to raise a lot of money. We don't need to raise a lot of money. So is the idea that we do the food festival again next year, or is that still up for debate?
I think Creative Oundle want to take it back.
it's up for discussion.
Discussion.
I was told that we can take it back if we wish. And Creative Armor has yet to discuss it one way or the other. But I have let Creative Armor know that they need to make a decision fairly soon. Because you start planning, you know,
Yes.
soon.
Okay. Okay, yeah, well, thank you again, Lisa and
Yeah.
team for everything.
Absolutely.
Streetlights, there is nothing, neither CCTV, so, energy. Discuss ideas paper regarding ways to reduce electricity consumption and decide next steps. Councillor Clark.
This is something that was discussed by the Energy Group a while ago. And Sherry and Emma had a conversation about it. Basically, we have the ability to monitor the electricity consumption in nearly all of our buildings. But there is a substantial cost to it. This building is done on what are called HH, so every half an hour there's a reading, which we can get from our suppliers. Every other building, we have to ask them for it. I think the quote is going to be £2,500 a year for the licence, which is a lot of money. So Jerry came up with the idea of something like that device, which is
Okay.
on here somewhere. And basically, it's a little monitor that you plug into your electricity, and it tells you what's running through it. So it gives you the same access as anything else. So the idea was for £200 you can do that yourself. So the question is, do we want to? Jerry and Emma were talking about doing it last summer. That quite happened. Do we want to go ahead and get it done? And there's a chance that we might need Sadler's to fit it. So that could cost £100 or something. But then we'd be able to monitor exactly every half an hour what the courthouse is using. So if there are peaks in summer or winter or anything like that. And then really, once you know what you're spending your money on, you can start adjusting. Whereas at the moment, we have no idea.
Okay, I mean, I like the idea. I think what I would say is if we're already doing it here,
We did it here as standard. Just
how have we used that information here?
Well, that's the next question. We don't get that information, so I'd suggest, as I've said there, maybe every month we should get the electricity reading graph and just put it in the estates papers so we can see if there's any. Because it's amazing when you start looking at it. We did it around the school for a while. You suddenly find that a building at 3 a.m. is using as much electricity as is, and it's because there's a fridge door not working, or there's a, you suddenly, I think they call it in estates management stuff, finding the watts, and you can suddenly see where there are periods where the base load is running much higher than you expect for an empty building.
I'm thinking also about QVH because when Lisa and I went there recently, we discovered that something had been left on clearly. I'm just wondering to what extent it might be able to monitor those things.
I think the same sort of devices can monitor, but then you get into, is it 1-phase and 3-phase? Different pipe width wires demand different devices. So we could just do a start and maybe even do the HH readings for this place for next month.
Yeah, I think that sounds.
And if we like what we see,
Yeah.
we can start chasing this.
Yeah.
And it should be cost effective in the long run.
I think so. We're looking at like 25,000 this year for our electricity bill. And the only thing we can do is at least understand it a bit better.
Yeah.
And the courthouse was somewhere that was suggested because we've got all of those users, but they're not paying the cost directly.
That wouldn't cover the museum as well, presumably.
I
That's
don't know how the DD comes in. But yeah, there's all sorts of issues. But yeah, so maybe we'll try and work out how to get the HH stuff from BCR. I think it's quite straightforward, but I don't know.
What they would provide a breakdown, would they?
I think so, yeah. Someone somewhere, whether we need to do something online.
Okay. I'll have a look into that.
If they're not sure, let me know.
So just for Fletton House for now, yeah?
That's the only one where we automatically can get the HA reading.
Okay, I think that's, yeah, good idea. Okay, any other business for Riley? Val,
No, I don't think so.
Max?
I don't believe so.
It's not a formal thing yet, because I haven't heard back, but Northhands do a borrow an electric bike scheme.
All right, yeah.
And I was talking to this guy last week, he's very excited about the council, the town, the business association, the school doing something in August and September. And one idea is that we could maybe get an electric bike for the council, that Lisa could zip around on, Nobby could zip around on, etc. It's free, it's available for a month, you can do what you want with it. It's very basic there. And they'd also need ideally someone from their people who are based in Cambridge to come and set up a gazebo and hand over the bikes with a little 15-minute introduction to those who sign up for it. So using Fletton House car park seemed an obvious one. But I've suggested it to him.
So who would have use of this bike?
Well, that's what I'm waiting to find out. The idea would be, but I haven't heard back from him for 4 days, we would say to people in the town who work at the council or school or any business in town, would you like to use the electric bike for a month? And they would say yes, they'd be given an electric bike. At the end of the 4 weeks, they'd give it back and we'd give it to somebody else. There are 18 of them, and 36 people would be able to use electric bikes for free and see if they like them.
Are they just to be used on roads? Because there's sort of a lot of stuff about bikes riding on pavements now.
No
isn't there?
bike is allowed to be ridden on.
By use, you know, rather than like they're talking about having Gapthorne Road for bikes and pedestrians. On the same
I think they're the same as any
That's the
bike.
plan, isn't it? With the cycleway.
I don't know,
The cycleway is to be bikes and pedestrians
But
on the same.
it has to be designated as a joint use.
Like our pedestrian crossing up
Yeah.
on George, that's designated.
But I mean, I've seen, I hate to say it, a certain Arundel schoolmaster riding down North Street on the pavement, the opposite way to the traffic.
Well, that's
There's
just.
a lot of people.
Is he in this room?
No,
No, I got muscular.
No, no, but I mean, there's a lot of kind of rather loose approach.
Yeah, no, but that's a separate issue, isn't it, whether they're electric or not.
Yeah.
I realise that,
Yeah.
but I'm just thinking about the general.
No, they're the same as any bike, but they can't be ridden on the
Approach.
pavement anymore. But anyhow, it's not formal because he hasn't got back to me with a single way of seeing.
It does, I was reading it, it does sound interesting. I think
And
it's,
it's literally something for nothing.
Yeah, I'm not against
So
it.
he's gone
It's-
quiet. So it was just the idea that we could use Fletton House, and if he comes back, I'll
Yeah.
put it forward. But from here, it's just an idea.
I think it's a good idea. My only kind of concern is how we monitor who gets to use it and whether they would have it for the whole month or. Because some of these schemes work where you leave a bike and then.
No, this is one that you take
Only
ownership.
you take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's no disclaimer, there's no signing of a contract, it seems very chill.
Okay.
But they just got all these bikes, they want people to use them. There is a lock attached to it, and if you get a puncture, you can phone the technician up who'll come and fix it. And one of them lives in Amber, so you'll be able to do it that night. And it sounds too good to be true.
It does.
But they've got lots of money that's been poured into this project from somewhere, and they seem to be desperate to get people to use them. They're doing it at Rushton Lakes at the moment, and they've obviously got Tresham is possibly interested next year sometime. So that's coming along possibly for August and September.
How did you hear about
It was on every week. We get a Northants Council legal
Yes.
email, and it was on that.
okay.
And I actually read it. Followed the link.
Wow.
That's just surprising.
Yeah.
That's emailed actually off the same one, so I had a pretty good strike on
Wow.
that one.
Okay. Right, so if there's nothing else, that brings us to the last item. Please note that in view of the special and or confidential nature of the business about to be transacted, it is advisable in the public interest that the public be temporarily excluded and they are instructed to withdraw.
Proposer and seconder, please.
I propose.
Seconded, in favour, yeah. Okay.
Shut the door.